Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Inside Track, coming to you from a very wet and wild and overall pretty gloomy Brisbane. It's a little bit like Carlton's footy season this year. It's off to a very gloomy start. Firstly, looking at whole milk powder, overall the index was relatively flat, which is really promising for new season prices, with purchasing now into September, which is into the new milk season from New Zealand and Australia. Prices well above 3,500, closer to $4,000 is a really strong sign for milk price into the new season. The gap that existed in the previous auction between regular and instant still exists. It's about $100 US per tonne premium. The fascinating thing in this auction was the volume that was purchased from North Asia. So up around 48% of whole milk powder was purchased by China, which is almost close to the historical average and well up on the previous event. On skim milk powder, a few people would have got a bit of a shock when they saw the result overnight, up 5.9%. But drilling down into the detail, you can see the main driver for that was the significant premium to UHT spec versus medium heat and low heat. There'll be a few procurement people with a few please explains this morning paying nearly $5,000 a tonne for UHT skim milk powder, well above the average and well above all the other prices. So the detail around the skim milk powder overall was relatively flat, outside of the premium being paid for UHT for prompt shipments. Moving to fats, and more specifically butter, this was the first dip we've seen for a little while. It was probably a bit of a small solace for some of the buyers, down only 1.2%. Similar to whole milk powder, the indications of butter pricing well into the new season, or at least into the first part of the New Zealand season, are still showing butter well above 7,000 US. When we compare that to the same time last year, or what the price was at the September events in 2024, it was around $1,000 premium. So butter pricing in the short term, or with people covering well into the new season now, isn't expected to dip too much. Moving to AMF, it was the opposite of butter, up 2.3% in the overnight event. It's bucked the trend of the recent 4 events where it was down small percentages each time. So it probably feels like a lot of people were waiting out to get to a price and then buying for not only the prompt but well into the new season. So there was some chat around availability of product. AMF particularly, what we heard was quite plentiful, but it seems now that people aren't going to risk it any further and they are coming to the market to buy to get that coverage into the new season. Looking at cheddar, it also was a positive result for that product, up 1.7% in the event overnight. It was probably a little bit similar to skim, but once you get into the detail, you saw that the prompt periods for shipping, contract period 1 and 2, were up over 4%. So it probably lent itself to people waiting to the last minute to cover and then having to come back into a market where there was other buyers also looking to cover. The one positive for buyers, I think, on the strong cheese price is that the whey will be plentiful into the new European season and certainly the US. It's been relatively flat over the last 2 months, but a lot of people are waiting to see how the European season plays out before they make their purchases in the second half of the calendar year. It will be the one to watch. It's probably the commodity that's under a little bit of pressure, but it still seems quite firm for the short period. That's it for this week's edition of Inside Track. Thanks very much for tuning in. 2 weeks between the next GDT event, where John or Edwin will bring you the updates then. The interesting thing in probably the coming month or 2 months will be the discussion around the opening price for the Australian milk season. So there'll be a lot of discussion around that, and we'll bring you some more updates in the next Inside Track. Thank you.